The smoke alarm screamed into the Charlotte night, a shrill warning slicing through the quiet of Myers Park. Firefighter Jake Callahan stepped into the mansion's shadowy backyard, his boots crunching on gravel senses, razor sharp from years in war zones. Something was wrong: broken branches, a tipped chair, the faint tang of gun oil beneath the smoke. Then he saw him, a stranger slipping from the darkness, eyes cold hand drifting toward a hidden weapon. In that heartbeat, Jake's training kicked in, ready to face a threat no fire could prepare him for. This is a Firefighter Tribute, a story of courage where the flames aren't the only danger. Welcome to the Firefighter Tribute channel. Before we dive deeper into this story, we'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Where are you tuning in from? Share your thoughts or a story about the firefighters who've touched your life. If these stories resonate with you, hit that subscribe button to support the channel and join us in celebrating the inspiring tales of firefighters everywhere. The summer heat draped over Charlotte like a heavy blanket, the kind of evening where the air felt thick enough to cut. In the upscale Myers Park neighborhood, a mansion stood tall, 3 stories of red brick and ivy, its backyard sprawling into a maze of shadows. The faint chirp of crickets mixed with the distant hum of traffic. But something else cut through the night: the shrill wail of a smoke alarm. Engine 1 from Charlotte Fire Department Station 12 rolled up its red lights, slicing through the dusk. Jake Callahan, a 35-year-old firefighter, adjusted his gear as the truck slowed to a stop. His helmet gleamed under the streetlights, its scratches telling stories of fires fought and lives saved. 10 years as an Army Ranger had left him with a quiet intensity, a sharpness that never dulled even after trading combat boots for turnout gear. Tonight his instincts were already buzzing. Captain Maria Lopez's voice crackled over the radio. Jake, check the backyard for any fire source. Rest of you, front entrance. Let's move quick and clean. Jake gave a curt nod, though no one could see it. Copy that, Cap, he said, his voice low, steady with a faint North Carolina drawl. He hopped off the truck, his boots hitting the gravel driveway with a crunch. The mansion loomed ahead, its windows dark, the backyard hidden behind a tall hedge. Jake's gloved hand rested on the axe at his belt as he rounded the corner, his eyes scanning the scene. A koi pond shimmered under a flickering streetlight. A gazebo sagged under climbing vines. A lawn chair lay tipped over its metal frame, glinting oddly. Something wasn't right. Jake's radio buzzed again. Callahan, you got eyes on anything? Lopez asked. Negative, he replied, stepping deeper into the yard. Just a whole lot of quiet. Too quiet, he thought, his ranger training kicking in. Broken branches near the gazebo caught his eye, snapped clean, not weathered. Footprints pressed into the soft dirt, too precise for a casual stroll. His pulse ticked up, but his face stayed calm, a mask of focus forged in war zones. He moved toward the basement window, half hidden by overgrown shrubs. That's when he saw him. A man slipped out of the window, smooth as a shadow, landing lightly on the grass. He froze when he spotted Jake, then straightened, flashing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Evening, firefighter, he said, his voice polished, almost too smooth. Just checking on the place. Something about him set Jake's nerves on edge. The man's suit was expensive tailored, but his boots were scuffed tactical, the kind Jake had seen in dusty outposts overseas. Smoke alarm went off, Jake said, keeping his tone even. You see anything burning? The man tilted his head, his smile tightening. Must be a glitch. Old wiring in these big houses, you know. His eyes darted, scanning the yard, the exits. Jake caught it, the calculated shift of weight, the way his hands stayed loose but ready. He'd seen that stance before in men who carried more than just attitude. Name's Victor, by the way, the man added, stepping closer. Victor Kravek, though Jake didn't know that yet. You're one of those hero types, aren't you? Running into fires for a paycheck. Jake's jaw tightened, but he kept his cool. Just doing my job, sir. You live here. Krevek's smile didn't waver, but his eyes hardened. For now, place belongs to a friend. His voice carried a faint accent, Eastern European, maybe softened to blend in. Jake's radio crackled again. Callahan's status Lopez's voice was sharp, cutting through the tension. All good, Cap. Jake set his eyes, never leaving Krevek. Checking the perimeter now. Krevek took another step, his movements too smooth like a predator sizing up prey. You ever think about it? He asked, his tone shifting colder now. All this running around, saving people for what a system that's falling apart. Jake's hand tightened on his axe handle, subtle enough to go unnoticed. You got a point to make, sir. He asked, his voice steady but firm. Krevek's smile twisted into something darker. Oh, I've got a point. You Americans so proud of your heroes, your flags, your big dreams. But it's all weak, rotting from the inside. He gestured at the mansion in the neighborhood. It's a lie. A pretty cage for a dying country. Jake's pulse stayed steady, but his mind raced cataloging details, Krevek's boots, the way his jacket hung unevenly, the faint bulge at his side. This wasn't a random crank. This was someone with a plan. From across the street, Mrs. Evelyn Carter, an elderly widow with a knack for noticing trouble, peered out from her porch. Her shawl was clutched tight, her eyes squinting at the two men in the backyard. Something about the stranger made her stomach twist. She'd lived in Myers Park for 40 years, seen every kind of visitor, but this one felt wrong. She stayed quiet, watching her hand hovering near her phone. Krevek's voice dropped lower, meant for Jake alone. You ever wonder what it's like to see it all burn? Not just houses, but everything, your whole way of life. Jake's eyes narrowed, but he didn't bite. He'd heard this kind of talk before in briefing rooms and war zones. Extremists with a grudge looking to make a statement. You're awful chatty for a guy checking his friend's house. Jake said, his tone dry. Maybe you should step inside. Let us finish our sweep. Krevek's laugh was sharp, humorless. Oh, I'm not going anywhere. Not yet. His hand moved slow and deliberate toward his jacket. Jake's body tensed, every muscle coiled, his ranger instincts screaming. Krevek's fingers dipped inside and the air seemed to freeze. I'll show you how fragile it all is, Krevek said, his voice a low growl. His hand emerged, gripping a CZ-75B pistol, its blued steel catching the streetlight. The muzzle pointed at Jake's chest, steady, practiced. Evelyn gasped from her porch, her hand flying to her mouth. She didn't see the gun, but she felt the shift, the wrongness in the air. Jake's radio crackled unnoticed now. Callahan report, Lopez snapped. Jake didn't answer. His eyes locked on the pistol, its custom grip, and modified sights telling a story of their own. This wasn't a street thug's weapon. This was professional lethal. One shot, Krevek said, savoring the words to burn your pride to ash. You're no hero. You're just a man in a costume playing at saving a world that's already lost. Jake's heart pounded, but his face stayed stone. He'd faced guns before, Taliban fighters, insurgents, men with the same cold eyes as Krevek. He knew the math of survival angles, timing, nerve. You talk a big game, Jake said, his voice calm, almost bored. But you're holding that thing like you mean it. So what's it gonna be? Krevek's eyes flickered, surprised by the steadiness. He expected fear, panic. Instead, he got a firefighter staring him down like he was just another Tuesday call. You don't get it, do you? Krevek hissed, stepping closer, the gun steady. This isn't about you. It's about what you represent. A weak, bloated country pretending it's still strong. I'm here to show them the truth. His finger hovered near the trigger, his stance shifting slightly, betraying his next move. Jake saw it, the subtle lean, the tightening grip. He'd seen it in combat in men about to act. Evelyn's voice broke the silence, frail but sharp. "Young man, is everything all right?" Her words startled Kravek, his head snapping toward her porch. That was the opening. Jake moved faster than thought, his gloved hands shooting out like a snake. In one fluid motion, he grabbed the pistol's slide, twisted and yanked. The magazine dropped, caught in his left hand before it hit the grass. A flick of his thumb, and the chambered round spun free, pinging against the ground. 3 seconds start to finish. Kravek's eyes widened, his hand still shaped around a gun that wasn't there. He lunged, snarling, but Jake was ready. Using the pistol's grip as a pivot, he swung the rear sight down, connecting with Kravek's nose. The crack was sickening, like stepping on dry twigs. Blood sprayed, staining Kravek's suit, and he staggered back, clutching his face. "You son of a," he choked, voice thick with pain. Jake stepped back, the CZ-75B secure in his grip. "Suspect armed, fleeing west," he barked into his radio. "Male 40s, broken nose, blood trail. Move now." Kravek shoved through the hedge, his boots slipping on the dew-slick grass. He was fast, but the blood dripping from his nose marked his path like a neon sign. Jake stayed put, his breathing steady, his eyes scanning the yard. He'd done his part. Now it was up to the cops. Evelyn shuffled toward him, her shawl slipping off one shoulder. "Oh, bless you, son," she whispered, her eyes wet. "I knew something was wrong with that man." Jake gave her a small nod. "Just doing my job, ma'am. Stay back, police are coming." His radio crackled to life. "Callahan, what the hell's going on?" Lopez demanded. "Got a situation," Cap Jake said, his voice calm. "Armed suspect just fled. I've got his weapon." Lopez's response was half laugh, half curse. "Damn it, Callahan, you pulling a Rambo on us, sirens?" Wailed closer now. Officer Dan Harper's cruiser screeched to a halt at the curb, its lights painting the mansion red and blue. Harper, a stocky cop with a buzz cut, jogged over, his hand on his holster. "Firefighter, talk to me," he said, eyeing the blood on the grass. Jake held up the CZ-75B magazine, out, chamber clear. Suspect had this: CZ-75B custom grip, subsonic rounds. Broken nose, heading west. Harper's eyebrows shot up. "You got all that in what, 2 minutes?" Jake shrugged. "Seen his type before. Check for ties to terrorist cells, maybe out of Eastern Europe. The mods on this gun aren't standard." Harper nodded, already relaying the info to dispatch. "Nice work. Stay put, we'll need a statement." Jake glanced at the pistol, its worn barrel telling stories of dark places. Subsonic ammo, custom sights, a trigger job from a shop that didn't advertise. This wasn't a random thug. This was someone with a mission. Neighbors started gathering, drawn by the sirens. Evelyn stood firm, her frail frame belying her resolve. "That man was trouble," she told Harper, her voice shaking but clear. "I saw it in his eyes. Jake saved us, didn't he?" Harper gave her a reassuring nod. "Looks that way, ma'am. We've got units tracking him now. That broken nose won't help him blend in." Lopez rounded the corner, her helmet under one arm, her dark eyes scanning Jake. "You good, Callahan?" she asked, her tone a mix of concern and amusement. "Never better, Cap," Jake said, handing the pistol to Harper. Lopez shook her head, a grin breaking through. "You're going to give me a heart attack one day, you know that, going full commando on a smoke alarm call." "Just another day," Jake said, his lips twitching. He glanced at the mansion, its dark windows now crawling with cops. Forensics teams were already photographing the blood trail, the ejected round glinting on the grass. News choppers buzzed overhead, their lights sweeping the neighborhood. Kravek's face bloodied. Broken was probably already on every screen in Charlotte. Harper's radio crackled. "Suspect spotted 2 blocks west, moving to intercept." Jake nodded to himself. Kravek was fast, but not fast enough. A broken nose and a blood trail made him a walking target. The cop gave Jake a nod. "We'll take it from here. But damn, firefighter, you're something else." Jake shrugged again. "Just doing what I'm trained for." Evelyn stepped closer, her hands clasped. "You're a hero, young man. I don't care what you say." Jake met her eyes, his expression softening. "Appreciate that, ma'am. Just glad you're safe." She patted his arm, her touch light but firm like a grandmother, proud of her own. Lopez clapped Jake's shoulder. "All right, hero, let's wrap this up. Truck's waiting." Jake followed her back to Engine 1, the crew already tossing gear into the rig. Tommy the rookie grinned from the driver's seat. "Heard you took down a bad guy Callahan. You hiding a cape under that gear." Jake rolled his eyes, climbing aboard. "Keep dreaming, kid." The truck rumbled to life, its engine a low growl. Lopez leaned over, her voice low. "You sure you're okay?" That wasn't exactly in the job description. Jake stared out the window, Charlotte's skyline coming into view. "I'm good, Cap. Seen worse." Lopez nodded, letting it go. The crew's banter filled the cab, their laughter cutting through the night. Jake leaned back, his helmet resting on his knee. He'd faced fire before, flames that ate whole buildings, bullets that tore through the air. Tonight was different, but the mission was the same: protect, serve, stand firm. He thought of Kravik's words, his sneering talk of a dying country. Jake didn't buy it. He saw it in Evelyn's eyes, in the crew's easy camaraderie, in the city lights stretching out ahead. This was worth fighting for. The radio crackled one last time. "Suspect in custody," Harper's voice reported. "Good work, Station 12. Lopez smirked. "Hear that, Callahan? You're famous." Jake just shook his head, a faint smile on his lips. The truck rolled on back to the station, back to the next call. Because that's what firefighters did, ran toward the danger, no matter what form it took. As the skyline faded into the distance, Jake's mind settled. He wasn't just a firefighter, not just a soldier. He was a shield, a steady hand, a man who stood between chaos and home. And tonight, like every night, he'd answered the call.